So Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape and the Eastern Cape currently account for 73% of crime levels, particularly those associated with extortion in the country. This was revealed by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu yesterday during his address to Parliament on plans to curb extortion in the country. Now, the minister said police plan to intensify their pushback against criminality due to the severity of the crimes. We are joined on the phone now to unpack the minister's statement to Parliament by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police, Ian Cameron, joins us now. Ian, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to go through some of the points that were made by the minister and your thoughts on the approach that he brought to Parliament as he accounts, right? One of the things that he's talked about is stepping up intelligence. He's talking about working with private security, a partnership between national and local government. I think I want to start here. Are you satisfied with the plan presented by the minister to Parliament on how to deal with 4 provinces that account for almost 3/4 of the extortion crimes reported in the country?
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's a preliminary idea of where we're headed. I don't think it's the detailed plan. I know there are other strategies that are going to be followed, and obviously they won't share everything publicly. In terms of the partnership that you mentioned, I think that is already a step in the right direction, because each area or each region would have to have a unique and localized approach to tackling the issue that they face there. What was important about the minister's address yesterday was that he specifically emphasized, as you correctly said, crime intelligence, which we really know, in my opinion, has close to nearly collapsed in South Africa. So to bolster that, and then obviously specialized investigative capacity. The only thing that I missed yesterday, but that I have actually heard the minister say at a previous session, was the integrated approach with the National Prosecuting Authority, because it's all good and well that we have all these policing strategies, but if we can't successfully prosecute these criminals, then how are we going to put them behind bars?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I want to actually just play a clip of some of what he said, just to jog the memory of our viewers, and then you and I will continue with our conversation. Have a listen to what the minister had to say in Parliament yesterday as he was speaking to the Portfolio Committee on Police, led by Ian Cameron.
The modus operandi of the perpetrators involved in these heinous acts is well known. Most of them are individuals who do not want to work, but rather choose to parade as armies of murderous parasites that must be fought and rejected by society as a whole. They are often armed, operating in groups, and instill fear and chaos. The relative silence of communities and low reporting is all due to these fears.
Yeah, it's interesting wording that he uses there, because he talks about murderous parasites who do not want to work. And one of the things that you've done is you've talked about this integrated approach, for instance, with the NPA to ensure that we have prosecutions. I'm wondering if there's enough of an integrated approach with departments that can help us perhaps with preventing the incidents, where he says these criminals don't want to work. The reality is, and perhaps you can share your thoughts on this, we do have a high number of unemployed young people on our streets with very little to do and desperate to get their hands on some money. Is that not a concern on preventing the need for extortionist crimes?
Yeah, so obviously unemployment plays a massive role in crime, especially, a lot of your less serious crimes. In terms of extortion and the scale at which it's happening in South Africa, it really is an organized crime. So it has become a career to certain people. And I must say that I'm not convinced that poverty is the reason for that. I mean, we are aware of many countries that have challenges with regards to poverty, but don't have the same challenge with regards to extortion. But we can easily compare the less serious crimes like theft, even housebreaking, crimes that really either get committed or are committed to simply trade something for some cash, or to put food on the table immediately for an individual or a family. In terms of them not wanting to work, I do agree. I think they abuse those that do work, and it's a cheap way for them, or a cowardice way, in fact, for them to just take other people's hard-earned money. But yes, unemployment in the broader sense of crime does play a role. I'm not convinced that it plays such a big role with regards to extortion.
Yeah, the minister's also talked about an overhaul of the Criminal Procedures Act, saying that a lot of these criminals that we do see in these communities as extortionists have also been, he feels, unduly released on parole. I mean, what's the step of action then that needs to be taken to deal with that?
Well, there's already engagement. I've also heard the Minister of Correctional Services, Dr. Groenewald, saying the same, that the parole procedure needs to be reconsidered and that the victims or the families of deceased victims should have a say in the parole process. And I think they are absolutely right. You know, it's extremely frustrating if you, and I mean, you know, I'm kind of preaching to the choir now. We know what the frustrations on the ground are among South Africans because they just feel like criminals are back out on the street far too quickly and far too easily. And very often we hear the excuse, yeah, but there's no space in prison. And my comment is just simply, well, build more prisons. Yes, we have to fix social ills and so on, but from a police perspective, we cannot simply say that we don't have prisons. There has to be a way of making sure that correctional facilities are able to handle this. And I've heard the Minister of Correctional Services indicating same, which seems positive.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, sometimes we look at the careers of politicians, and you gotta stand in wonder sometimes. I mean, it was just 2 years ago, Ian, when you yourself were a crime activist and you were in Gugulethu, had quite the heated exchange with former Police Minister Begicele. You might remember that. You even told him to shut up on that particular day. As you sit in Parliament as an oversight of what the police ministry does, one of the things that you've raised in your response to the minister yesterday is that extortion is not a new thing, and it's something that has been building up over the years, and that's why we do have such large numbers. How far back would you say the lack of action has gone?
Yeah, so just a small correction. Minister Taylor told me to shut up. I didn't tell him to shut
correct.
up.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
I'm just joking. No, it goes far back. In fact, this is the first time that I've heard extortion actually be discussed the way that it has, and I was quite surprised and to hear the very transparent way in which the minister admitted that they have got significant amount of work to do, and that there are a lot of faults that need fixing, because previously we never had heard those faults being admitted to. So I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that there was this transparency. And obviously, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? We need to see the results. In terms of the experience on ground level, people are significantly frustrated. I was in Gugulethu again 2 weeks ago, just as a very relevant example, as you mentioned, and nothing has really changed there. So it is going to take some time to really turn the tide.
Yeah, work needs to be done. Okay, lastly, what is the Policing Portfolio Committee up to today?
So today, the committee will be going into an in-depth analysis of the crime stats that were released last week. The management of South African Police Service and the Hawks, as well as the ministry, will be present for the committee to engage them. And I think it is going to be quite it has the risk of being quite a fiery engagement. I think it's important that we use the opportunity to hold the relevant people to account, especially in terms of senior ranks of the South African Police Service. I think for too long, operational members were hiding behind politicians, and it's important that we hold them directly accountable. All
right, we're going to leave it there. Ian, thank you so much for speaking to us. Ian Cameron, chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police, speaking to us this morning.